2024. And we'll make a motion to take up item number 1.
Motion to take up item number 1.
And from what I understand, they are not ready yet, so I'd like to hold those.
Okay, motion
Okay.
to table item 1 to the next meeting.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Item number 2. Sergeant, are you here for that item?
Hello, I am.
Okay. All right. So this is that order, divine order, that there be and hereby is appropriate by transfer in the fiscal year 2024, $150,000 as follows: from captains, $40,000, dispatchers, $80,000, Quinn bill, $30,000, and it's going to claims and damages, $150,000. So go ahead, Sergeant.
I can go over the details if you have any questions, but I was informed this was already gone over in the executive session. So I don't know how much you want me to say right now.
Was it?
Well, we had one executive session, but there's a lot of questions about this, so I'm a little surprised we're not in executive session for round 2, because there is still questions regarding what changes and reforms are taking place at Hoyoke Police relative to this item. So I don't know if you want to speak to that out here at this point, or we should have an executive session.
I would suggest that we hold this, table this, get in touch with the law department ASAP, and have a executive session on this right away.
I think you're right.
How's that?
I think you're
Okay.
right.
Is that all right?
Madam President,
Yes, Counselor Graney?
just quickly, I didn't realize it was legal to transfer money from the Quinn bill into a different account. I thought the Quinn bill went directly to police salaries and police functions.
I can only think that the auditor was okay with this, so that's probably why. But we're going to hold off on it anyways until we go into executive session.
I'd make a motion to table until we can move this to executive session.
Second, all those in favor? Okay, and I will contact, well, we might have the law department here to let them know. Okay, could you?
Excuse me.
Yes, we're going to table this until we can get an executive session. So would you speak to Lisa or whoever you need to speak to so we can get that set up as soon as possible?
It's my understanding, Counselor, that there have been 2 executive session meetings on this particular issue, and that this matter had been resolved. So I don't think anyone in the law department realized that there were more questions. We thought that they were all answered.
I don't recall this being an executive session, but I may be incorrect. We did have one for $300,000
Yeah.
for something, but
This is the first time on this.
this is the first time, attorney, that we're seeing this, from what I can gather from the committee.
I think what happened was, there was an executive session on this matter before the new councilors were sworn in. So then Lisa did another executive session. It was the same matter. But again, I have spoken with Attorney Ball, and we were under the understanding that there weren't any questions, that everything was fleshed out in executive session.
Yes, Counselor Jordan.
Yeah, Kathy, yeah, there's a lot of questions, and the other thing is, some of the questions is, what's the fix? I.e., what reforms are being put into place so that the circumstances and situation that occurred here will not occur again? So there's a lot of questions, and we're looking for management to tell us, how we're going to move forward in terms of the reforms that are going to be put into place. So lots of questions about that. There is still questions relative to the actual facts and circumstances that occurred here. I know in the 1-hour executive session, I was afforded 6 minutes of questions, and I made it about through question 2 of my many questions. So I could easily get more questions as to the facts as to what happened. I'd like to save those for executive session. But then the second phase, which has never been addressed in executive session, is What are we doing to actually fix the problem so that we don't have $300,000 of tax money being spent again? So that's what we would like to see focused at the next time we get together, please.
For an executive.
Okay, I think you need to, I understand what you're saying, Counselor, and I think, we need to have the chief here, for those questions as well.
That would be
So-
helpful. That would be a good idea.
Well, I do think executive session seems to be the best way to go, so I would
Yes.
entertain that motion that we table this until we have an executive session. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. And I was gonna suggest taking up item 3 and 4, and then we can go to the water department?
Fine.
That okay?
Yep.
Because they're here too. So item number 3, to take it off the table, order that there be and hereby is appropriated by transfer fiscal year 2024, $32,975 from capital stabilization to recreation capital outlay vehicles. And Tom Reynolds is here from the Parks and Rec. Hi, Tom.
Good evening, counselors.
What can you tell us?
So the quote that was quoted here is a John Deere Gator. Gator, loose term, a utility vehicle, pretty much a heavy-duty golf cart, I guess is a loose term for using that. We need it for Roberts Field, as right now, we don't have the proper equipment to condition the turf. We need to drag that every so often, depending on usage, depending on weather, as the infill has changed from rubber and ceramic to more a wood fiber pellet, I guess you could say. So we just need to keep that turning over with the rain, the amounts of wetness that we get here. So not only would it double down for that whole turf back there, it would double down, and we'd be able to use it down at Mackenzie during the baseball seasons. Right now at both locations, we're using golf carts. They're really old, they're really beat up. We've been changing batteries every other year. It's about $1,000 to redo the batteries in those golf carts. They just can't tow the brush to get that across the field. Sprint Turf was here putting in the turf in the summer. They had demonstrated what needs to be done to recondition. We had asked them if the baseball three-wheeler piece that we use to drag the field would work. He advised against using that. So, like I said, we're just trying to upgrade so we can have a good, proper vehicle that can take care of all the load of that entire facility, the turf, the field, up and around, with a towing capacity. And what more than that is, we got the package, obviously, in case there was snow. God only knows if we're going to get it in November or winter, or if at all. So if we had say a football game, Hoyoke High Thanksgiving, and we get crazy snow, right now we wouldn't be able to have that game with the plow attachment available for this piece. If that were to happen, we'd be able to take care of the snow out there. Game would be on as planned. So multi-functions, it would just replace the really old beat up things that we've kind of been using heavily for the past 20 plus years. So any questions, please feel free.
Counselor Jordan?
Hey, Tom, obviously strongly in favor of this. You definitely need it. But I had one question. That's why, where we're getting the money from. I see we're taking it from capital stabilization, which normally would be fine. But as you know, the school department has $13 million it's trying to spending spree get rid of between now and September 30th. And since this is directly related and housed at the schools, at the high school specifically, this piece of equipment, have you reached out, or has anybody suggested to you to reach out to the superintendent to ask him to use 33,000 of the 13 million we're trying to get rid of ESSER money to pay for this? Because that seems like an obvious expenditure that we could use and would totally be appropriate because it's for the high school.
Correct. Small technicality. It would be in our garage. I mean, yes, it's shared. It's on high school grounds. The backside is theirs. But I have not asked them that, because I figured we'd just take it on as it would be ours. There'd be no crossover, or this is theirs, they can use it. This is ours. Who has rights? Like I said, with a piece of equipment like this of this magnitude, I just want to make sure that it's under real good care, so we have it for as long as possible. having that conversation with the superintendent is definitely doable for sure. I could be happy to send an email and reach out and see if that's something that they would like to take on.
So I guess my suggestion is maybe we pass this, but could you look into that and find out, call the finance office or talk to the mayor and the receiver and see if they could let them know what you're using this for, that this is for the high school and for Robertsfield and Mackenzie and all on that campus. And that's what it's for, that, I'll bet you they would have the money available. Normally they wouldn't, but under these circumstances, I think they would. And if that could save the city 33 grand, that'd be a nice thing. So before you use our money, can you please make sure that there's no other source available?
Correct. Will do. Yep.
Perfect, thank you.
I have a
Absolutely.
question. If we pass this tonight, will the school department reimburse the city?
Well, I'm hoping that what would happen if that case, say they come through, then they would report back that this money would not be needed.
Okay.
So we're authorizing it, but if they end up finding another source, they just wouldn't spend it from here.
Okay. Do you have a question?
Nope.
No? Did you say no?
I'm good with it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so does anybody have another question? Okay. yeah.
Motion to approve.
Do you have a question? I do not. Okay, so motion to approve.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you guys
And-
so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, and item number 4, for Maria, ordered that there be and hereby appropriate by transfer the fiscal year 2024 $8,000 as followed. Reference librarian to financial manager. Maria, come on. Yep. Just make sure that, you can, oh yeah, sit here and just make sure the, yeah. And I'll try not to call you Kevin,
Yeah.
because his name is right on your desk.
That's okay.
I'm honored.
Nice to see you all.
Nice to see you too. Do you hit the button so the green light's showing? Hello? Okay,
Yes.
okay, so just explain your transfer.
Yeah, I'm asking for the 8,000 transfer from the reference to the financial manager. For a while, we were not able to find a part-time financial manager at the pay rate that we were doing. So finally, we found one, but I had to pay her just a little bit more. But because the position was empty for a while, I was able to do that, give her $1 more than the previous one was receiving. It turns out that we are behind in some of the financial reconciliation, so it has taken her not the 20 hours that we hire her for, but 35 hours. So we need to transfer, because I didn't transfer it for a full-time, because the position was a part-time. So that's why I need to transfer that
And
money.
so she'll be full-time?
And then come July, she'll be full-time.
Okay. July, okay. Anybody have any questions?
No, and the only thing I would add is that Maria was transparent with us before. Her financial manager was taken out of the budget, and so there's been supplemental funds to try and keep the position funded. So we kind of expected this situation. So
Thank you for the understanding.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion to approve.
Second?
That was easy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the
Okay,
evening.
all those in favor? Aye, okay. And number
Motion.
9?
Yeah.
Thank you, Maria.
Motion to take number 9 out of order?
Okay, item number 9, filed by Council Jordan, ordered that the Water Commission and manager come to the Finance Committee for an annual financial update to discuss the status of their finances, projects, and rates. Thank you. I guess you did. Okay, what?
Who's the chairman now? Oh, are you? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, you're. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
We understand.
So if you don't mind, just give me 15 minutes to go through this little summary I prepared with regards to
Okay. Is it,
capital projects.
okay, your mic on? Your mic is on. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Give a little overview of the capital projects.
that the water department has undertaken and talk about supporting water rates and charges. So for counselors that don't know about this project, it was authorized by the city council in 2018, 2019, two authorizations totaling $19.93 million, and that was to address 5 high priority projects in addition to water main replacement throughout the city. Back when the project was originally proposed, the engineering estimate that was developed by Ty and Bond in 2016 was for this amount, $19.93 million. Now, today in 2023, just to give you a status of where we stand. Now, with regards to the rehabilitation of the 5 water storage tanks, which was one of the 5 major projects, the estimated cost on that was $2.7 million. The actual cost was $1,201,418. Reason being is a number of reasons, actually. We bid this project during COVID, actually. When most communities were shut down, we were still operating, and as a result, there was not a lot of work out there. So the company that bid on this particular project was from Florida, Painting Specialties. We also made some changes in the coatings that we were using. We went from Tnemec to a Sherman-Williams coating, which there's a considerable cost savings. But as a result, we were able to paint 5 of the water storage tanks that service the city. The exterior. The interior was inspected and it's intact. So with regards to the rehabilitation of the tanks, just so you know, Hoyoke now has 8 water storage tanks. We don't foresee any rehabilitation work on these tanks for the next 25 years. So
that's great.
There. The second project was the McLean Gatehouse project. The McLean Gatehouse was built in 1904. So that's about 120 years old. The original estimated cost was $330,000. Actually came in $664,760. And the reason being, we had one bidder for the particular project. There was not much interest in it. And when we got into the actual gatehouse, we found a number of deficiencies that were not noted during the original design. One being the roof and the supporting structures all needed to be replaced. The screening system that was designed, the weight of the screens were over 400 pounds, and there's a maintenance program where those screens are to be removed and cleaned on a monthly basis, and there was concerns with regards to employee safety. So what we did was we came up with a secondary screening system, which was in addition. Reason being is when the screens are removed, if there's any fish in the gatehouse itself, they could work their way into the system. So there was a lot of modifications that weren't included in the original design. However, it's now up to date, and we don't foresee any further improvements. The West Hoyoke water storage tank, that estimate was $2.2 million roughly. Actual cost was $3.5 million. Again, we ran into issues with endangered species. That was one of the issues. We had to enter into an in lieu agreement with Natural Heritage, where we had to pay $44,000 for the disruption of the habitat that's out there. And then there was inspection services for habitat on a daily basis. We also ran into additional ledge. And there was other issues with the existing tank. When we put the new tank into operation, the new concrete tank, we found that the interior of the existing half million gallon steel tank rusted out, and the coating was non-existent, so we had to do a new coating on the existing tank. That system, that West Hoyoke system, is now up to date. In addition, the contractor that was fabricating the concrete tank did some restoration work on the existing West Heights tank, which is one of our tanks for the West Heights system that is also concrete. So we have 6 steel tanks, 2 concrete tanks. The Whiting Street Spillway Reconstruction Project, that's about 98% complete as we speak. That was estimated at $2.18 million. The actual cost is $3,115,000. Again, all these projects are much more expensive because the cost of materials are a lot more expensive than they were in 2016. Cost of concrete's up considerably, cost of iron's up considerably. The Spillway Reconstruction Project is primarily steel and concrete. The only remaining work on that particular project is we have some work on the railing system and there's some site work that needs to be done. But we expect that project to be completed within the next couple of months. With regards to water main, I hope I'm not, am I going too slow?
No.
Okay.
You're fine.
With regards to the water main projects, the phase one was completed. Phase one's in the Flats area. That's East White Street, Northeast Street, North Bridge Street, Ivy Street. Is it Ivy Street? I think it's Ivy Street or Eli Street. I'm not sure. That was estimated at $1,032,000. It came in at $1,490,000. One of the reasons why, and you'll see one of the reasons why a lot of our water main projects are a lot more expensive than we originally estimated, was when the engineers put the estimate together, they were doing just road repair, a trench repair. That's where we cut and we just patched the area we disturbed. When we actually went out there and in consultation with the former city engineer, Bob Parent, it was agreed that at minimum what we would do is center line to curb resurfacing, and in some instances, curb to curb resurfacing. Because the roads, because of the condition of the roads, some of the roads that we were working on were already in relatively good shape, and we didn't want to leave the roads or leave the actual neighbors in that particular area with a condition that was worse than where we started. So there's a lot of extra paving that took place in all of these projects, and I just wanted to note that. And it's evident if you go out there and you see these projects. But as far as that area, all the water main work is in relatively good shape. I don't foresee any work taking place in the Flats for at least another 20 years, if it's even necessary. The 1B, or the Mass Works project, that was Southeast Street, South Summer Street, and South Bridge Street. Again, estimated at $775,000, $903,520. That area now is all been, the water mains have all been brought up to the standards necessary for all the development that's taking place down there. There's a lot of development, housing development, there's a lot of duplexes, and the new water mains support that, so there's no longer going to be any issues in that particular area, the South Holyoke area, with regards to water main work. There is going to be some work proposed into the Connector Road project that's going to do full depth reconstruction. We're looking at probably fiscal year 25-26. The board is in a position where they can do a non-participating if they choose to. That main is old, but it's really the water main on Cabot Street. Again, it's at the commission's discretion. It's not 100% necessary, but when you're doing full depth reconstruction and you're digging around 100-year-old pipes, the concern is that you're going to get breaks and you're going to be digging up all that new blacktop, and we don't want to do that if we don't have to. So that'll be taken into consideration when that project comes before the board. The Phase 2A, everybody I'm sure is familiar with that. The Fairfield Avenue, Morgan Street, Nonotuck Street, Pearl Street, Pleasant Street area, estimated at $2,030,000, came in actually at $2,760,000. That project was funded through the Mass Clean Water Trust. There was a loan forgiveness of $519,537, and the remainder, the $2 million, was being paid back in an fixed interest rate of 2%. So that made sense to fund that project through that program, and we did qualify for that when we applied. The 2B project, that is the Hamden Street project, the Dwight Street project, Portland Street and Magnolia Street project, along with some work on Nonotuck Street, estimated at $3,610,000. The actual was $5,082,493, of which $2 million was paid under the ARPA program. So the actual cost bonded was $3,082,493. Again, originally, those roads were proposed to be trench repair. We did curb to curb on Hamden Street from Nonotuck to Northampton, and curb to curb on Northampton Street on Dwight down to school. All new roads. And again, cost of materials, and as a result of construction costs, the problem that we're seeing is that there is a lot of infrastructure money out there, and there's a lot of contractors that have work assigned to them. So you're not getting into this market, you're not getting the most competitive prices. That's one of the reasons why we made it an effort. Anytime we bid a project, we always tried to bid it before the first of the year, because that's when contractors are looking for the projects. And once they sign up on a particular project or enter into a contract, you don't necessarily get the best pricing on other projects because it's not to their advantage sometimes to take on these projects. So we always made it a point to get our projects out in December, January, the latest. With regards to the 3A project, there's money available, or there was money available under the drinking water, the Safe Drinking Water Fund grant program. We applied for that. That project was estimated at $3.2 million. We did not qualify under that particular program, and just to give you a reason why, that's that Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. It's filtered down into the various states. There was 69 applicants with a total of $889 million for projects. The state funded 31 for $340 million. We weren't even close to qualifying, and I can tell you the reason why. Most of the projects that qualified for this particular round of funding was people that are facing contamination due to PFAS or other water quality issues. So that is taking precedence with regards to funding. Our project is a water main project. It's a low priority, so again, we didn't qualify. What we did qualify for was we did qualify for the lead service line grant program, 100%. That's $190,000. And we did qualify for the master plan. That's a 60% reimbursement, and that project was estimated at $81,000. So there are other projects that are moving forward, but they're funded from sources other than rates. Now, just to look at the current bonds that the department is paying, our bond number 5, which is the UV facility, that payment period was 2018 to 2037. That's got a fixed interest rate of 2% to 2022, then it varies from 5% to 3% up to 2037. That loan amount is $3,450,000 with an average annual payment of about $220,000 in principal and interest. The second bond, bond number 6, that's the $7.8 million. That's the comprehensive capital improvement projects that we talked about. That payment period begins in fiscal year 2022 to 2041. That's at a fixed interest rate of 5% to 2032. Then it's a variable rate, 3 to 2% to 2041. That loan amount is $7,827,000. We're paying roughly around $650,000 in principal and interest annually. The next bond, bond number 7, is the Mass Clean Water Trust. That's through the State Revolving Fund program that we talked about. That payment period is 2023 to 2043 at a fixed interest rate of 2%. And again, I mentioned that there was a 19% loan forgiveness in the amount of $519,000 that we did not have to pay for. That loan amount was $2,104,387 with an annual payment of roughly about $130,000. And then there's bond number 8, again, capital improvement projects. That bond is estimated at just under $6 million. We don't have the actual number at this point. We're expecting that payment period to be anywhere between fiscal year 25 and 26. Again, interest rates unknown. That's going to be something that we're working with the city treasurer and the city auditor on as to when that bond and those bond payments are going to be due to the department. We expect those payments to be in the order of $500,000. So to date, of the $19.93 million, $16 million, roughly $16 million has been paid out to these particular projects. So I just included a couple photos just to give you an idea. This is one of the steel tanks, one of the 5 steel tanks that was repainted under the repainting project. The second picture is the gatehouse that's been rehabilitated under the McLean Gatehouse project. The third picture is the West Holyoke tank project. You can see on the right, that's the new 2 million gallon concrete tank, and on the left is the existing 500,000 gallon concrete tank on the right and 500,000 gallon steel tank on the left. Both tanks are operational now in the site. has been brought up to today's standards. Again, I don't expect any work to take place on this for a good 25 years. So we're in very good shape.
Satellite, cell tower on there.
The cell tower, yeah, yep.
We'll talk about that later.
Yep. The 1.2 million gallon concrete tank that services the West Heights system shows the exterior work that was done, that was rehabilitated under the West Hoyoke Tank Project. The next picture is the new spillway, the 110-foot spillway that replaced the 27-foot spillway, meaning the 1/2 PMF required under the Army Corps of Engineers. That just shows you the spillway structure. That dam structure the spillway structure has been lowered 2 feet. The impound's been dropped by 40 million gallons. The reason for that, it was to reduce the overall length of the spillway structure itself. If we had kept the impound at 479 million gallons, that structure would have been 300 feet in length, and the project cost would have been tripled. So, just to give you an idea of what that structure looks like, and then the discharge area downstream of it. Okay, that's the projects. Now talk a little bit about water usage. So, looking at a 15-year, the last 15 years, we've seen a 21% decline in usage from roughly 1.45 billion gallons down to present day of about 1.144 billion gallons. That, just to give you an idea, when we originally built the water treatment plant in 1996, the city's average usage was 11 million gallons a day. We're right now at 3.2. Okay, just to put that into perspective. So that's over a 15-year period. What I'm doing now is I'm looking at a snapshot over the last 6 years, and you can see from FY18 to where we are in FY24, we're seeing about a 3% decline in usage overall. You can see that there are periods, there are 2 spikes. We attribute those spikes to weather and COVID. There was a considerable increase of water used in fiscal year 20, and that leveled off in 21, and then we've been seeing a decrease going forward of 1.25% in 22, 1.5% in 23, and we're looking at a 2% decrease in usage in 24. Okay. Good, all right.
I'm just pointing out the statistic you made, which was, did I hear that right? That you said 11 million gallons in 1999, and now you're saying 3.2 now?
In 1996,
Or 96?
96, we were using roughly 11 million gallons average day. The plant was built for 15 MGD. We are now using 3.2. So, and 6 months into this year, we're looking at a 3.6% conservation, the first 6 months. We're hoping, we're being optimistic that we're going to see an increase this spring, and that should level off to 2%. But just so you know, after this first 6 month period, we're looking at 3.6% conservation. So looking at revenues and rate increases, again, I'm looking at that 6-year snapshot with fiscal year 24 and 25 are projections. That's why they're in blue. You can see that in FY19, there was an increase of 2 cents to offset operational costs. And then in 23, fiscal year 23, we did the first of 3 rate increases to fund the projects. And then in 24, we did the second increase, and we're before you today proposing the third increase. There was some carbon monies. I made a note of that. It's highlighted with regards to that particular program, which did offset some of our revenue, and as a result of that, we were able to push the increases forward a year. Next chart. Operational and bonding costs through our projections with our auditor. We were projecting a 3% operational increase. We're looking at anywhere from 2 to 7%. Again, over that 6-year period, we're averaging about 5% annually. But you can see, as highlighted in blue, that's our bond payments. So our operational costs we're seeing a larger increase than we anticipated because chemical costs are almost doubled, operational costs doubled, maintenance and repair on our facilities. We're seeing significant increases in those particular items, and as a result of that, our operational costs are going up at a rate higher than we had projected. So going forward in fiscal year '25, based on projections by our accountant, the commissioners are going to be authorizing a level funded budget, more or less meaning that our expenses for FY '25 will be the same as '24, which is roughly $7.9 million. That's what our budget's going to be roughly for fiscal year '25. Commission is proposing no capital projects for fiscal year '25 or any major purchases. This is one of the steps that's taken place to kind of maintain that expenditures for fiscal year '25. We're also looking at no hiring or replacements in '25, and we're not filling 2 vacant positions that we currently have. So our employment, our number of employees now is going to be reduced to 35 going forward. So these are some of the cost-saving measures so that we can control the rate increase going into effect in 2025. So how does this impact the customer? So the rate's going to go from 57 to 62. How does that impact your average consumer? Your average consumer uses 22,900 gallons a quarter, which means they're going to be looking at a $45 increase, which breaks down to $3.75 a month. That's your average user. That's not your minimum user.
What was it, Dave? $3 and,
I'm sorry?
what was it a month? $3 and, I didn't hear the rest of it.
$3.75. You're looking at an increase
Okay,
to the average consumer. Now, your minimum users, roughly about, I would say about 2,000 of our accounts are minimum users, of our 8,000. 2,000 of our accounts, they are going to be seeing an increase of $20 a year, which is about 1.67% per month. I'm just kind of breaking it down. Most people, your bills come monthly. We're quarterly, but if you look at it on a monthly basis, that's what they're looking at facing for an increase. Second component to that is the maintenance fee. Now, the maintenance fee, we're proposing to keep the maintenance fee the same in '25 as it was in '24. And the maintenance fee went into effect in 2020. At the time, my recommendation was for the residential consumers. As you know, the residential consumers have the maintenance program that includes the covering of all the costs of the water service from the water main up to and including the meter. Non-residential customers, commercial customers, industrial customers, public customers, they pay just for the maintenance or the replacement of the meter. At the time, I recommended $10 per quarter. The board decided to set it at $4 and at the time evaluate the program moving forward. And just so you know, the cost is a lot higher than we originally anticipated. Not just talking about the materials. The meters have gone up significantly because they're brass. They've gone from a little over $200 up to $300. But the actual installation cost is significantly more, and I'll tell you the reason why. When the customer was paying to have their services replaced before the program, we would do the minimal repair because there was a cost to the customer. That's not the case now. The case is anytime we do a repair on a service for a residential customer, if the material is not copper, if it's brass, if it's cement lined, it's replaced in its entirety. And when I say replaced in its entirety, I'm saying from the water main all the way up to the water meter. Now, we average, in the last 3 years, we've been averaging between 50 and 70 of these services. So you're looking at a cost that could vary anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000, depending on the length of service or where the work is being done. Certainly, if we're working on a side street, it's a lot more inexpensive, but we have a police officer there, just the police officer, an 8-hour detail is almost $500. That we pay for. We pay for the officer, we pay for the road repair, we pay for all the materials, we pay for all the labor. So this is a very, very successful program for the residential customers. Okay, and I wanted to make a note of that because so our costs are much higher than what we're generating, are higher than what we're generating, or much higher than what we're generating at the original $4 rate. My recommendation with the board was 10, they reduced it to 8. They wanted to keep it in line with the non-residential customers, and that's where we are today. $8 per quarter, $32 per year. Again, it covers the cost of any service repairs and the replacement cost if it's not of a copper material. So that's where we stand with that program.
Okay.
And again, just looking at the last 15 years, I spelled out what the rate increases were for. In FY10, we increased rates 1 penny to offset the decline in water consumption. The next rate increase was in FY16 mid-year. That was to offset the UV facility. That was 2 cents. Then in 2019, we did a 2-cent increase to offset the decline in water consumption. And then the 2 increases in FY23 and 24. And then today, we're talking about the increase that's going to go into effect July 1 for fiscal year 2025, 5 cents.
Would you say 5 cents?
5 cents. It's roughly about 8.5%. And again, now looking at how do we fare compared to other communities, well, Holyoke's not the only one that's looking at rising water rates. You're looking at area communities, and what I'm doing is I'm showing how our rate is in comparison to other communities with the 5-cent increase. This doesn't take into consideration or account any increases of the other communities. So even with our increase, if other communities kept their rate the same, we're very, very competitive. Springfield's looking at building a water treatment plant for $300 million. Chicopee's looking at a lot of infrastructure's improvements. So you're going to see not only Holyoke's rates going up, but all area community rates going up. And a lot of these communities, their rates are going up much higher and much, much faster than Holyoke. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that our rates, even though there are increases, we're still very competitive. We're cheaper than Springfield. We're cheaper than Chicopee. That's all I have.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for coming in tonight and giving us this terrific presentation. And I've known you a long time and usually do a good presentation, so thank you for that. And I will open up the floor for questions. Councilor Sullivan.
Sure, thanks. Thanks, guys. That was a great presentation. What I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, right, is our usage is going down, all right? So sales numbers are declining, and the costs are escalating, all right? So I always got to be the bearer of bad news, I guess. That's my job. But a 5-cent increase is not enough. I know what we're trying to do, and I know when we talk about the burden on the users and the citizens and the businesses, but we're fooling ourselves. All right? Level funding, you can't level fund anymore. All right? Not on something like this, and not when the costs are escalating. All right? The costs of pipe are escalating. The costs of labor are escalating. All right? We're always in danger of losing people. All right? We've been hearing that through every department in the city. All right? But it's especially true here also, and that's not going to change. All right? So level funding, we're really fooling ourselves, right? The other thing, level funding, I think, creates a problem of we don't do these projects now, they're going to be even more expensive in the future. And we're already seeing the breaks that go on, right? Which not only the significant interruption, right? But when you have an emergency break, it's going to cost far more than doing enough preventive work ahead of time to stop these breaks. So, I don't know, this has been a great presentation, but I think we ought to be bracing and be realistic and be looking at a somewhat of a higher increase and get ourselves ahead of the curve and get ready for this stuff.
Okay.
So that's my take on it.
Just so you know, interest rates are a bit higher than our original projections, and one of the things the board has taken into consideration, unless we receive SRF funding, we're going to hold off on any other improvements, only because we don't want to place either an even further burden on consumers. So we're trying to spread it out. The majority of the issues or the deficiencies in the system we've addressed. The areas where we have the most problems with water main breaks, for the most part, have been addressed. The lower wards are in very good shape from a water system standpoint. I think so. Those areas, I don't foresee much work on. I mean, there's always going to be projects, and we're under our master plan. We're going to develop what streets should be replaced in the future. But again, that's a timetable that this board, the city council, and the residents of Holyoke are going to have to accept. But again, the majority of the deficiencies that we felt were high priority have been successfully addressed, and we feel we're in very good shape. The water department is in good shape. All of our tanks have been rehabilitated. All of our pumping stations have been rehabilitated. So we're in a position now where we can operate more or less from a maintenance standpoint for a few years. And that's pretty much been the goal, to try to operate with minimal increases and just hold off on any further capital improvements or equipment updates. But I think our fleet's in very good shape. The department's in very good shape, and that's one of the reasons why we believe that we can level fund in FY25. Now, I'm not going to say we can do that in 26, certainly, but there's a lot of things that are going to be taking place in FY25 and 26, and that includes additional bonding and additional expense from that viewpoint, or from that particular project. And I think rates will be looked at every year, and rates will be discussed with this committee every year.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Givner, and then Counselor Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thanks for the presentation. That was great. I do remember fondly going down and visiting you, and you showed me the whole map of the city's waterways and what was being worked on. And it looks like most of that has come into fruition, so kudos. I was curious about why the water usage is going down. I think that's a good thing, but I'm just curious of what's being done or what's changed to make it go down so drastically over the last 20 years.
Population has gone down. Since we built a treatment plant, population went down.
A lot of your larger users have left the city. The largest user now is the Holyoke Mall. That is our number one user. Second largest user is Holyoke Housing Authority. Other than that, there's not much usage. There's no big users left in the city. Just to give you an example, the High Performance Computing Center, their quarterly bill is probably around under $10,000. Their original projections were 4 times that. So there's a lot of water conservation. I think you're seeing a lot of these new structures or facilities that are being built have water conservation items or fixtures incorporated in them, and I think you have to take into consideration that there's the sewer component. So the consumer's paying twice. They're paying for water coming in and water going out. So people are just being a lot more conservative with regards to water usage. It's also seasonal too. We see that when we have a very dry season, our usage is up. But when we've been lately having wet seasons during the summer, we're seeing that conservation factor going up. But it's just the industry, it's the dynamic of the city. It's changed considerably in the last 20 years.
Can I just add something? to
Yes,
that?
please.
So when I operated the hydroelectric plant for all those years at Cobble Mountain, it would be nothing for us to give the city 60 to 70 million gallons of water a day. They're averaging 25 to 30 now. So it's not just here in Holyoke, but it's everywhere. And again, as Dave said, the usage varies with the season. I mean, you get a summer where you're getting very, very little rain. Everybody's watering their lawn. It's a
Right.
whole different ballgame. But all we've been getting is rain the last couple of springs. And, you know, I drive by telling everybody to water their lawn whether they need to or not. But that's, but I just wanted you to know that it's not just in Holyoke.
Okay, thank you, Billy. Counselor Jordan?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, couldn't have a finer water department manager. You know, Dave, you're just a legend in this city and in this department. You're, you know, forever. No matter where you do for here on after, you'll be inextricably linked to the Holyoke Water Works. You're just, we're just so fortunate that you continue. You could have retired and you still keep going, and we're so thankful to have you. And this, I mean, you got the all-star team here for commission. I mean, Billy, Tim, and our longtime employee here with Butch. I mean, you just the all-star team. We're just so thankful, and thank you for reaching out to do this presentation. And you know, I treasure my 3 years that I was on the commission, and just got a little touch, a little glimpse of what you guys do. And it's just such a well-run department. I mean, down to they just make sure every vehicle shines and is maintained. And it's an unbelievably well-run department. Just everything is so meticulous, so first class. It's just, it's a case study. It really is. So as we're thinking about, you know, all the things that you've done for improvements and stuff, I wanted to ask you, is there anything that we should be aware of that needs stuff like different safety improvements? As you know, we had certain areas where the pipe was like, you know, like a Fairfield Avenue type of situation where it's really, you know, become in real tough shape. Do we have anything like that left in the city, or have we gotten to all of that type of, you know, I forget the term you used for it. I want to, where a pipe becomes, Mike, you probably know it, where a pipe just starts to fill up with over the years once it gets so old, and there's a term for it. But thank you, tuberculation. That's what I was looking for.
I was going to say sediment.
Tuberculation, I remember, thank you. And how are we doing on that? Do we have good water pressure and flow? I mean, obviously there's high service, low service, those type of gravity issues, but in terms of the pipe quality itself, are we in pretty good shape that way, or is there any tricky areas that we might need to put our finger on?
Well, the areas that we were aware of where there was deficiencies, the Fairfield Avenue, the Morgan Street, some of the areas down on Southeast Street, down in the flats, those items were addressed.
Right.
But as far as knowing where all the deficiencies were in the system, well, you were part of that. We developed that fire flow map. There was a fire flow map that was developed, and that fire flow map provides us with real-time pressure and volume at every single fire hydrant in the city. This 1,600 fire hydrants throughout the city. And with that information, we share it with the fire department. So the fire department knows where the weaknesses are in the system now. They know, and they know that because the hydrants are color-coded on the base map, which is on my phone, which is on their laptops, which they have available, which we have available. So the green hydrants mean there is 1,500 gallons a minute or more available, and then yellow hydrants mean that there is anywhere from 750 to 1,500, and then the red ones mean under 750 gallons a minute. And the fire department uses that map, so when they go to a fire now, they know which hydrants to get on first. Okay, so that was developed because you're never gonna, and we had this conversation, you're never gonna go out there and replace all this pipe unless you wanna spend hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's the only way you're gonna do it. It's gonna take a long time. But what we try to do is we try to target specific areas where you may have one street that has a main that has, a water main that has limited fire protection, but the adjoining street or the cross street has sufficient fire protection, and we put those fire hydrants at the intersections so that the fire department knows that on one particular street, there's no water, but if they go to the intersection and they go on that cross street, there's water there. So that's what we've done in the interim, to try to have a better understanding where our weaknesses are. There are weaknesses in the system that still exist, not as bad as it was 6 years ago.
Right.
I think we've addressed the worst of the worst.
I know that how did we make out? I remember one time we had talked about the extra 500 feet. I believe we did on Chestnut Street.
That was done.
Yeah, and that was done. That went smooth. I think that was a big improvement for Churchill.
Yes, and we went another 500 feet beyond that too.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that there was another extension that was included under the phase 3A, the South Elm Street, and the Chestnut Street project. So there was just an additional 500 feet. And the reason there was the additional 500 feet was to connect two larger pipes on Chestnut Street. But there is sufficient fire protection on the cross streets. So we did make that improvement, and we made other improvements up in that particular area. But the 2A project, that is something that we're going to continue to apply for funding under the state revolving fund program. And it only makes sense because you're looking at a 2% interest rate and a 19% loan forgiveness.
Right.
So why would you not pursue those particular programs first?
Right. In terms of the Whiting Reservoir, with the lower level, has there been any sort of environmental concerns or anything with the overall as a result of the new spillway, or we're good in terms of state regulators or anybody that would take an interest? They signed off on the change to that lower spillway.
Yes,
Okay.
all that's been approved. The only thing we're doing now is we're monitoring stream flow. That's what
Okay.
we're doing. We're monitoring stream flow because as a result of the size of the spillway, it actually relieves the reservoir a lot more quickly than the prior spillway, and we're monitoring the impact on that particular stream where it runs under 91 and down across Brookwood into
Yeah.
the Connecticut River. Now, we are having conversations with one of the homeowners down in that area because he's noticed that during periods of rain, there's a significant amount of water that's coming down that particular stream. But again, the reason why he hasn't seen those stream flows is because prior to the improvements and because of the classification of the dam being high hazard, meaning that if there was ever the failure of that particular dam, you'd see loss of life and extensive property damage. I mean, by extensive property damage, 91. If you had 500 million gallons released across 91, I'm sure you'd see a tremendous amount of damage.
Yeah.
So that's one of the steps that was taken, knowing that situation existed, was we maintained the impound 2 to 3 feet lower than the spillway, so that in the event of a 500-year storm event, it wouldn't overtopple the dam. That's not the case anymore now. Now the reservoir is operating like it's supposed to operate, and as a result of that, you're seeing during periods of heavy rain a lot of increase in stream discharge. So again, we're monitoring that, and because this is all information that hasn't been made available to us for 20 years. We've been lowering that reservoir for 20 years.
Right. In terms of revenues, I really appreciate continuing to give to pursue grants, different things with the state. I happen to have been in the camp. We had a whole debate here about where ARPA money ultimately was the mayor's decision. I know the water department had applied for more ARPA money than they ultimately got. Thankfully, we did get $2 million for the water department. But this is the type of stuff that some of us were talking about that, we really needed to use a lot of these one-time monies for city infrastructure funds. I wish more had been done for water and sewer. But such as it was, at least the water department did get $2 million. Please continue to pursue those. I wanted to ask you, is this cell tower that's up at where the tanks are, is that a new cell tower? Or
Existing.
that's the existing one that we had the contract with already,
Yes.
right? That's the
Yes.
one that we negotiated a few years back?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
All right.
One note, we did receive $1,350,000 in ARPA funds for the Water Street project.
Okay.
And that's currently underway right now. And what that's going to do, that's going to connect the 12-inch water main on Water Street in front of the gas and electric to the 12-inch water main in front of Mass Elder Care. And it's going to put that in a loop, and it's going to provide a source from both ends of Water Street. So there's now continuity there. And what the water department is going to do as a result of that new pipe being installed, even though Water Street's a private road, we're going to take an easement over it, and we're going to take over control of that water line and make sure that that water line is maintained going forward in the future. There is a lot of exciting things. I'm sure Councilor Sullivan can talk about Sublime coming down there, and I've been working.
Does that have the potential to be a high water user, potentially Sublime?
They're very hush-hush on what they're going to use or what they're going to do. They won't even give me the layout of their plans.
Yeah, we wish, yeah.
I
For
think-
concrete, they don't need a lot of water there.
I think it's a great program for the city of Hoyoke.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely. We're real excited. We're thankful to our local team here for doing that. In terms of preserving on the cost, obviously, I know the commission is sensitive to the overall cost, and obviously as sewer goes up, then that encourages, as the cost goes up, people conserve more. But we do have to pay our bills, and we need to be reinvesting in, and, it sort of is what it is. I feel these departments do operate very efficiently, so, as far as this 5-cent increase goes, is the plan for additional 5-cent increases or other increases, or are we at the 62 cent rate? Is that where you anticipate this being for a year or two? What's the outlook in terms of rate increases?
I think that the outlook is that this will carry us through fiscal year 25, but then there's another bond that's out there that the city hasn't sold yet. And once that bond is sold, and that bond's going to be sold anywhere from fiscal year 25 or 26, there's going to be another $500,000 or more that the department's going to have to come up with annually. So again, that just kind of gives you an idea as to how much rates have to be increased. For every penny we increase rates, we generate about $100,000 more.
So that would be another nickel then to pay the $500,000.
And then you have to look at escalating operational costs, and you also have to look at conservation. So I think the best approach going forward is to keep your committee more informed, and if there are any increases, we have to make the public known 3 months prior to the fiscal year, because if we implement the rate increase on July 1, we have to provide a 3-month notification. That means our notification has to go out in April. So I think we're going to be looking at this year to year as circumstances change, and certainly you'll be involved with that.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it, and we know the money is absolutely well spent. There's just no question in terms of the water department and what you guys do and where the money goes. It's just
Do you have any say
Madam Chair?
over the interest
Yes,
rate?
Counselor
You'd appreciate
Graney.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. Have you seen increase on insurance? Do we have
the
to?
interest rates on the bond?
Oh, interest rates, yeah. Well, let's, hopefully, if inflation can get under control, the Federal Reserve will cooperate with that. But thank you very much for the presentation. We really appreciate it.
Counselor Graney, Counselor Sullivan is first, and then if you have a question, you'll be next.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks. We mentioned the decrease in usage. We've had some significant manufacturers leave the city recently. Off the top of your heads, do you know how big a user, or approximately, Hamden Papers, for example, Sunoco, we had call it Riverside Paper, but I think it was National Blank Book or whatever, all of these businesses left for the, because of the marijuana industry coming in. Now these buildings are sitting vacant. So was this, how much do you feel this might have contributed to our decrease in usage? Especially Hamden Papers.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers, I'll be honest with you. I can tell you that, as I mentioned before, that the mall is our largest user now, and Housing Authority is second. Other than that, we don't have any major users. The college is probably in the top 10, but there really is not any major manufacturers that use a lot of water. We were hoping that the High Performance Computing Center was going to use a lot of water, but that's not the case. We're hoping that Subline's going to use a lot of water. But again, we're seeing a lot of these places just have toilets and these fire suppression systems.
Yeah, I think we did get an estimate out of Sublime. I want to say 50,000 gallons a day and something like that. Was that a fairly small number? Or?
I like that.
I don't know. Maybe that was a month. I don't know.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Did you?
They haven't given me any information.
All right. But, I mean, just Hamden Papers, were they a significant user at one time?
Not really.
No?
Used to be one of our largest users, Kodak Polychrome. Remember that?
On Whiting Farms.
Which one?
What was the one on Whiting Farms? They used a bit there too.
I know
They have wells and stuff too.
ISO uses some water, but there's really, like I said, the mall is our largest user. I could put together a report and give you
Very much familiar with the Kodak Polychrome. That was
what I can do.
advanced offset plate and graph coat. Yeah.
I'll put together a report for this committee of who our top 10 users are in the city, so you'll be aware of that.
We don't have Mountain Ski Range, huh? With
No.
the big snow machines?
No,
That used to be a big user.
Yeah, that was a big user.
Probably legendary
Yeah.
water user.
Yeah.
Are you
Well,
all set? Or you still?
Yeah, I'd be a little bit, if you know, Hamden Papers, Sunoco, the rest of these were over, I think it was GTI over, also now having left the city also. I don't know, might be interesting to see if some of it's a negative impact of the cannabis industry, if there's monies there to help offset some of these, since these customers left because of cannabis, and now we're getting no revenue in these buildings. So
Impact funds, right? That's more justification for impact money.
I think,
it's worth it, might be worth.
yeah, I think Trulia was using quite a bit of water for a short period of time. I don't think they're around anymore.
No.
So, and most of these cannabis users don't really use much water.
No, but Hamden Papers, for example, right, left the city for a cannabis user, bought it, and now there's zero water being used there. Absolute zero. So, yeah, that's just something to think about.
All set? Counselor Greenie?
Yeah, quickly, I don't want to get into a cannabis discussion, but you know how I feel on that. But thank you for the first-rate presentation, Mr. Conti. I'd just like to know, are there any exemptions for water use, or do we have any monies that are out there in arrears that are owed the water department for water that's been used and has not been paid for yet?
Counselor, well, typically in the winter months, our arrears have climbed, and we just started our shut-off program, and we've initiated that, and the DPW is following in April. And as a result of that, we were able to get our uncollectibles down to under $200,000 over the course of a few months. But initially, because we don't have the ability to shut water off in the winter months, our arrears are relatively high. And typically those numbers should be in the minutes under the arrears report. So we keep track of those numbers where we stand. But I can tell you that arrears are relatively high at this point. But as we move forward with the shut-off program and we shut off section by section, month to month, you'll see that those arrears will be significantly reduced.
I don't want to, I don't want to push the issue, but could you just give me a ballpark figure about what's owed out there? And if it would be better to tell me in private, if I gave you a call, that would be fine too.
Yeah, you can do that. I don't want to throw a number out there that I'm not sure of. I can tell you that we typically are able to get our arrears under $200,000. And that's what's shutting off a significant amount of properties. There are situations where we can't shut water off because of elderly, because of financial hardship. And in those instances, we work with those particular property owners and we develop payment plans. So some of that money that you see that's tied up is we have payment plans in place. But then again, it's with our collection program, we're pretty aggressive with that, with consumers that are delinquent, and we focus on our larger users. And again, we do that. in
Okay,
conjunction-
have there been any larger users that have left the city, that have stiffed the city that we have not been able to collect on?
I think we've collected almost all of the money that was owed to us. I think we actually went after a lot of the liens, accounts that were placed on liens, and we reversed the liens, and we actually collected it. That was a program that was instituted when Councilor Jourdain was chairman, and it was very successful.
Right.
A lot of money when that went forward, but the city does write off. The city writes off some debt that's uncollectible, and we receive those notices from the city. So there are situations where properties go bankrupt and buildings are demolished and removed, and the city acquires those particular parcels, and in those instances, we absorb that money. We can't, it's uncollectible. And I think that goes not only for
Okay,
water, but
yeah.
sewer and gas.
Once again, thank you very much for the excellent presentation, and thanks for the information.
Okay, one last thing, Counselor Givner, and then we need to move on. People are in the audience waiting.
I'm all set, Madam Chair.
Oh, all right. So, thank you again. This is really, really good. So, I'd like to entertain a motion that the order's been complied with.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And appreciate it. What?
Right.
Take care. Aaron, come on in. Good night.
Take care.
The next item is item 5, and it's from divine order that there be and is hereby appropriated by transfer in the fiscal year $20,000 as follows. Cannabis stabilization, $20,000 to cannabis OPED legal services. So I entertain a motion to take this off the table. All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Good evening.
Thank you for your patience.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Learned a lot. I was
Yeah, it is
I was going to
interesting.
check in with Dave, so obviously happy about the Water Street project and everything else. So,
Yeah.
pretty straightforward request today. Obviously, with all the changes on the from the state level on the cannabis laws from the CCC, and the work that we'll be doing in conjunction with the law department on reviewing all the current HCA's and other legal agreements that are in place, and on the new regulations. We will continue to work with KP Law. That is our legal outside counsel, and with Blue Skies Consulting for more of the on-the-ground work, as it were. Blue Skies last year, under their contract, did a really good survey and helped update our master cannabis list as to where companies were and are, so we have a better understanding, knowing that 76 HCA's were approved, 37 special permits, so we have a better sense of what any of those companies will be coming to fruition. And the other big piece, especially that will probably impact well, not so much this body, but some of what we do with your admin assistant and with the clerk's office. There's a bunch of new regulations under the new law as to what we have to have on the city website, information for developers, particularly for social equity or economic empowerment candidates. So a lot more information needs to be on our website. So again, that'll probably fall more on Blue Skies Consulting to help us with that. And again, with KP Law, we're in discussions. We've been working with them now for just about a year on sort of negotiations with all the different companies.
Questions?
Yeah, Aaron, just so I understand, is this going to also support us defending the city relative to any questions about our use of the impact funds?
If all goes well over the next month, we won't ever need any money to defend ourselves for anything.
Okay, so we're coming to a point of understanding?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right, great. Okay, thank you, Aaron.
And we've got some of the biggest ones have already, we've come to a good understanding.
Good. Appreciate that.
Okay. No other questions?
Motion to approve the transfer?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And when, is Counselor Givner here? She's back there.
Charlie
Okay.
Horse.
All right. So if I could, there's the DPW, thank you, Aaron, you're all set, thank you. There's several things with the DPW and the treasurer, so maybe you could come in and we'll get on those. I may be going to different items, okay? Thank you very much for coming in. And I'll read the items that pertain to you. And we also have Carl, yeah, Carl?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay, there you are, okay. All right, so.
Used to see me in person, so.
Well, we appreciate you zooming in, so appreciate that. All right, so let's see.
Motion to take, we're on item 6, correct?
Yeah, but there's so many. I'm just wondering if before we get to that, most of them are all DPW, if we could go with the Chief Katalevitz and do that one?
What number do you want to start with?
Got to find that one. Yes, number 8.
The motion to take
Thank you.
off the table?
Okay, Divine ordered that there be and is hereby appropriated by transfer in fiscal year 2024, $8,160 as follows: from capital stabilization, $80,160 to fire department capital outlay vehicles for that amount. Chief, go ahead.
Yeah, these are the two fire prevention escapes, or 2007 escapes. We were looking to replace them earlier, but the mayor wanted to look at the hydrogen-powered option first. That ended up not panning out, so this is for two hybrid escapes to replace the two aging 2007 escape utility vehicles. They're in fairly rough shape at this point.
Okay. And I'll just make a note for the committee that my notes are going to reflect to check with the auditor about capital stabilization, what we have left and stuff. So anybody have any questions?
I had a question.
Yes.
Chief, could you walk us through why we need two vehicles as opposed to one? And tell us, like, with fire prevention, do we, like, how many fire prevention officers would we have going out and about around town on a given day that would need two vehicles as opposed to one?
We have 4, Counselor. There's 4 inspectors in fire prevention. Each one has a vehicle to go out and do on their own. The other 2 vehicles are 2012 Focuses that are in better shape, so we're not looking to replace them at this point.
I see. So we have four people doing active inspections every day.
Inspections, plans review, yeah. Fire education, they do a whole spectrum of things.
Interesting. Okay.
If there's not any other questions, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve?
All those in favor? Aye. So moved. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Now we are on to the DPW, the treasurer. Is it item 8, Kevin?
We just did item 8.
Okay, I'm sorry, the, DPW, what's the first one? Okay. Okay, so we go with, item 10, if you could.
Item 10.
Item 10,
Suspend the rules to go to item 10?
yeah. Ordered, everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ordered that the amount of $1,126.29 be authorized from the Treasurer's Department, R&M Office Equipment Appropriation in fiscal year 2024, rendered in fiscal 2023, which were unencumbered at the 2023 fiscal year end. Move we take it off the table for discussion.
So moved.
Okay. Rory, thank you.
No problem. It's very simple. This is our postage machine. The reason for the delay was at the end of the last fiscal year, we actually had to get a new lease for postage machine with Pitney Bowes. It seemed that everything had been settled up. We found out in July that there was actually one invoice left from the old machine. We had submitted that, and it didn't make its way to the council until now. So that's the long and the short of it. There's money in that line, the repair and maintenance of office equipment to pay for it, and that's really it. It's just an outstanding invoice from the month of May related to the postage machine.
All right. Everybody all set with that?
Make a motion to be approved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Rory, we're all set with that. And then the next one, item 11.
Motion to take up item 11.
Second.
Okay, so this is, the amount of $5 million is appropriated for the purpose of financing the demolition, remodeling, reconstruction, engineering, construction, and equipped or re-equipping the various city parking facilities. Rather than read the whole thing, the mayor is not available. You're here on behalf of the mayor. Is there anything you can tell us tonight, or should we?
No, I can fill you in, and actually, Sean from
Okay.
DPW can also fill in, and we provided some information that I apologize should have been attached to the
That's
bond
okay.
language. The reason, it's a broadly worded bond authorization, but it all focuses on parking infrastructure and improvements. What we're looking for right now is an authorization in order to go out and start some of the most immediate work, which Sean can address. We don't envision appropriating or going out to borrow a full $5 million anytime soon, but because of the nature of some of this work, as Sean can discuss, there was a concern that costs may escalate. At the same time, on a parallel track, prior to some of these most immediate concerns being raised, the mayor asked me to take a look at this bond language. I did, but I also was aware of some other grant opportunities, so I'm working with the Office of Planning and Economic Development to go after some MassWorks money, which would also help defer these costs, into the future. So that's the reason why this is parking infrastructure. So it's both parking decks, the deck behind City Hall as well. But it can also be used, as things come up. There's the parking study, which I know the council's going to be reviewing in a different committee, some of the recommendations that come out of that. This money could be used, to help support that as well. But that is what we're looking for, and we're hoping, for passage at the next meeting so that Sean and Carl and their team can get to work on some of these immediate concerns.
Rory, when you say at the next meeting, mean full city council
Yeah.
meeting? Okay.
Yep.
Which is going to be
May 7th.
May 7th?
Yep.
Okay. All right, questions?
Well, I'm assuming there's someone here that's going to talk to us about the deficiencies. Obviously, if someone's asking me for $5 million, I would assume there's going to be some presentation on deficiencies. But I think you can sell me pretty easily about the Ernie Prue problems. One thing I saw, which was a little disturbing, was in one of the reports, it said that the elevator hasn't worked in 9 years. Is that true? And why was that allowed to happen? And that's the first I'm hearing about the elevator not working for 9 years. So like, and I get some of you are new, but let's just start with that one. Like, how is it the DPW doesn't come forward and say, we have an elevator that's broken and not working for 9 years, and it never comes in front of city council for a proposal to be fixed? Start with
Council, I'll like to answer that. It's, like you said, is that this has been for 9 years, and myself and Sean have been here little over a year. So when we found out about this through Mass architectural abatement from the state, we're getting on it right now. And we're trying to fix these deficiencies that we have. It's not only that, but also the parking striping inside the parking garage for handicap accessible vans and handicap spaces. And we're doing that this week. And there's also some other issues at the parking garage there itself that we have to address. So the money that we're asking as part of the $5 million is to address the Ernie Pruill parking garage, as well as the Dwight Street parking garage, right behind City Hall. That needs a lot of attention too, as you all know, that you park on there, you see the cracks, you see the deficiencies there, you see underneath that's been closed off for a number of years also. These are all issues that were never addressed prior to our involvement in this. And once we really found out about this and what the issues are, we're trying to do catch up on this, which is unfortunate.
Right. I mean, granted, you're obviously new, Carl, and doing a really good job, by the way, let me say. I'm very impressed. You're particularly very responsive to any question I ever have of you. In fact, you're being a big help right now on that South Holyoke lighting issue that I brought to your attention, and I know you're working with the G&E to fix that. The only thing I will say is you've got a lot of long-term employees in the DPW, though, who theoretically should be inspecting these things. So it's like, doesn't somebody go around and check to make sure, what's the condition of the garage? What's the condition of the elevator? Like, how does that not somehow percolate up to leadership somewhere that we need to fix these things? And there's somehow a gap in communication somewhere that just didn't happen. And it feels like, until a news report comes and then it's all hands on deck and we start, literally, parking deck, and then we start scrambling to get, an action plan into place. I'm just a little concerned about how it got to that point. I forget what year now the Ernie Pruill garage was built, but it's been around.
23 years ago, I believe.
Is that
something
right?
like that. Or 33, maybe.
I think maybe 33. It's been quite a while. So, not surprising that there's issues there. Now, changing gears, Suffolk Street. This was a garage that's not that old, quite frankly. This is one that was heavily debated in City Council. And there was a big debate here about what we should do in the replacement of that garage. And I'm leading with some of this background information because some of you are new, so I just want you to be aware of this context, that we had a big public debate about should it stay two decks, 2 floors, or should it be one? And there was a considerable savings to have one in terms of would it be utilized, and we could have saved many, many millions by going to one if all that was really going to be used as one. I'm kind of curious right now how much of the spaces are currently being used of the two floors. And then a lawsuit ensued effectively after the building of that about allegations around shoddy work. Or different defects in the work that was done that the city had paid considerable money. There was questions about the type of concrete used and other issues that had resulted from that. And allegedly, the law department gave us assurances that, you know, these things have been resolved, at least to the DPW satisfaction at that time. So having said that, and the fact that this parking deck is not that old, I see you're proposing here about $250,000 worth of improvements to the Suffolk Street garage. So I'm kind of curious if you could talk to us a little bit about what's going on Suffolk Street, please.
It's just basically to see what we need there. It was like you said, there was no maintenance plan for any of the garages. So we're trying to do that right now. And to make sure there's no issues going forward, as is going with our City Hall parking garage and the Ernie Poole garage. We want to keep ahead of this. And we want to have a good capital plan going forward. And that's what we're facing right now. The planning for Ernie Poole is maintenance of a parking garage. I don't know, like I said, we don't know what the situation was before we got here, and thank you for, you know, educating me on the Suffolk Street, but we're trying to be ahead of all of this. I don't want to be in a situation 5 years from now where I have to come up to the board and to the committee or to the council asking for more money because, you know, we knew that improvements were needed, but they're not being done.
So what's this proposal for $250,000 for Suffolk Street then? There's an itemized list here of things you want to have repaired, and I'm trying to understand where does that come from?
Maybe Sean could, because he helped prepare that, so maybe
Okay.
Sean could speak on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hello, Councilor Jordan and Madam Chair. Thank you for having me tonight, guys. So as far as Suffolk Street goes, there's smaller things, like if you look under the structural repair, that mostly has to do with around the drains. And then some of the other stuff, the bigger items, is the surfacing, repainting the surfacing that's there, because that surface coating that's on that deck actually saves the deck, whereas Dwight Street doesn't have that. Okay. So the deck is starting to show its age, where there's multiple spots where that paint is worn out. The next step is now that the ice melt treatment that we put on there is going to start attacking the concrete, and then it gets into breaking the concrete down, and then it ends up like Dwight Street. Right. So some of the bigger things are like having the painting done there, the painting of the lines. Some of the other stuff like these stairwell repairs, that has to do with the nosing that's on there, where the ice melt gets in there and has a tendency to pop it off. And so if we can get ahead of it, where we're repairing only certain stairs as opposed to all of the stairs down the road. So these numbers are only initial estimates. Some of them could be high, some of them could be spot on, and others could be a little low once you start really diving into it and getting quotes, and or you bring on a consultant to write up the specs that we could send out for a bid package. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it would be all of it. It just means these are the areas that I've identified that could use work and that we would want to stay ahead of it.
Like things like surfaces and painting, I kind of get that, like that stuff is wear and tear. But is there anything where something is failing, like you're saying the drains? And the question is, would any of that stuff be under warranty from the original manufacturer? Like what we purchased, we didn't get. Like it should have been to X code and it turned out to be to Y, or something that was supposed to last 20 years ended up lasting 10 years. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what we would have from a warranty, but most people are just give you the 1 year warranty after their work is performed. As far as material goes for products, a lot of those warranties would be gone by now.
So you spend $10 million on a garage and you get a 1 year warranty?
A lot of construction projects, you only get 1 year, unless it's written in the specs that you're getting that longevity of a warranty.
So theoretically, then they're not really standing behind their products.
No. Most general contractors, you get that 1 year, and that's it.
But it does make one wonder how they were selected.
Lowest bid, maybe it was proprietary. If we had proprietary items that we wanted for that project, and that's what we wanted to install, I'm not sure, but
I think we should go back and pull the old files on Suffolk Street and look into this as you're doing this, because, you know, I just, you know, I want to make sure the city's getting its money's worth for all these, you know, tens of millions that we pay for these things, that this stuff that let's put it this way, if I replace the roof on my house, and if it starts to fail, and it fails quicker than it should, I want to make sure that I'm reaching back to the contractor that put the roof in to say, what did I buy here? You know, these folks need to be held accountable. So what you're saying at this point is we need about $750,000 to fix the Ernie Prue garage?
Yeah, so let's talk about Dwight. So as far as Dwight Street goes, and let's go back to like the elevator stuff there.
Sure.
So, and I don't want to speak about anybody that's not around anymore, right? So I've been in this position 1.5 years, and whether my predecessor brought it up, which he might have, maybe it fell on deaf ears. I know that we shut down stairwells, and we shut down, whether it was mechanical failure for the elevator to be shut down, but because of the vagrant issue there and the drug use and people living in there, that was a big issue for shutting down the stairwells, and perhaps maybe that had some effect on the elevator. If they were abusing and using the elevator and it failed, maybe at that point somebody just said, let's just not even fix it, and just shut it down permanently. I don't know exactly the parameters around it, what happened, but those are some of the things that could happen. I know the stairwells, the reason we shut the stairwells down on the north end of the building is because of that, is because of the drug use, the people living in there, and then the structure of the stairwell itself failing. And so the cost of that, and then we just ended up shutting it down, which ensues a safety hazard, you know, because you have to be able to exit any exit that you want, right? And you have to be able to use the elevator. So, yeah. And as far as the elevator goes, from what information I've gotten from our elevator service contractor, it's the same type of failure that happened at War Memorial, where it's the elevator piston, the jack.
Okay.
So that job came in at around $125,000 plus the consultant fee. So I just received a most recent proposal from the consultant that we used over there.
Okay.
And their consultant fee, it's not in that package. I printed it and brought it with me. His proposal is in the $16,000 range.
Okay.
So, and I had figured about $25,000 for that. Now, it's over 10, it's designer selection, you know what I mean? So how we follow our procurement laws, whether we do an RFP and we get some more people to come in and give us some proposals, you know, or we stay under the 30 and choose this designer for that. So from what they're showing, would give us a clearer understanding of what the elevator would need. And that would be around $150,000. And then there's the environmental concern about how long the oil that spilled out of it has been seeping into the ground.
Okay.
So
let me cut to the chase here a little bit, because I'm sure others have questions, but I've seen in your proposal about $1 million worth of expenditure requests for the 2 garages for improvements. Okay. Why $5 million for the bond?
Yeah, I can address that, because
Sure.
that was something that we talked with bond counsel about, and you know, Sean just raised one of those X factors, which is why, you know, the most immediate need right now, we've got the state saying it needs to be corrected.
Yep.
They'll start levying fines if we don't at least prove that we're going to address it, right?
Yeah, so go fix it. Yeah,
so
right.
go fix it. The consultant comes in, says this is how much it is. The piston, great, it's 150, until we find out that the hydraulic fluids contaminated the groundwater, and now it's going to be a $500,000 fix or a $750,000 fix that needs to happen immediately once we know about it. So that's when I had first talked about this, and the reason we went for 5 and kind of wrote it the way, had bond counsel work, and why the mayor wanted to put this in front of you is because we don't know what some of these doors are going to lead to, and we want to be able to have the ability, that flexibility, to get that work done immediately. All the while still going after other types of grant funds, right? So we've got the potential for brownfields grant money, the MassWorks that I mentioned, which is specific to the infrastructure. But this will allow us that flexibility to know that if something really bad needs to get addressed in a moment's notice, that the council and the mayor have already authorized that ability.
So Rory, just so if I understand the request here
Yeah.
correct, is you've identified $1 million bill.
Mhm.
You've identified that there might be some question marks relative to $1 million bill. And you're suggesting to the city council that we should give you 5X authorization for $1 million bill, that there could be overruns of $4 million on a $1 million bill, and that you would ask the city council to approve that, so that if we did approve that, you wouldn't have to come back and explain a 4X on top of that overrun? I mean, what city council would ever approve that?
I think
Councilman-
it was.
And maybe can I add something to this? I think the biggest issue is not only the pool garage, which one thing I like to say is that the elevator issue has to be probably done within 120 days. So
Okay.
we need that money as soon as possible. I'm looking for an extension, which after this meeting tomorrow, I am, asking for an extension to do that work. So we probably have 120 days to get that work done. But the biggest issue is not the pool garage, and it's not the Suffolk Street garage. It's the Dwight Street, it's our City Hall parking deck. There's a lot of issues with that, and we don't know what the cost overruns might be. They might say to demolish the whole building. And
That's a
the biggest
major,
issue.
yeah, but Carl, that's a major conversation. We don't even have that in front of us. We don't just give blanket authorities here. Why isn't there a bond request for $1 million? We approve it, go fix the elevator, get going with all this stuff. And then if you need more money, come in with the request for those funds, and we'll take that on its own merits. I mean, we don't just say, here's $5 million and figure out a way to go spend it. I'll stop.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm not asking you to stop. I'm trying to
I am.
help.
Just kidding.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I think I can help Carl and Sean and answer some of your questions ahead of time.
Okay.
So if I use just the elevator, the oil leak, when it gets to the ground contamination, one of the things you could face as you start to try to remediate something like that is it spreads.
Yep.
So we don't know in what direction it spread. If it was just soil remediation right there under the elevator, that'd be fine. Once you start, and you start following that trail of oil, a whole section of the garage might have to, of the floor of the garage might have to be hammered up, and it could have spread off onto adjacent property as well. We saw this happen in several other properties around town just recently. So that'd be number one. You got to be ready. Once you start, you can't stop, and you can't come back and say, hey, city council, could you get this through finance and then get this through there? The same with the parking deck out here. We already know full well that and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, either one of you, but the weather stripping that goes, the expansion joints, that weather stripping is all asbestos material. It's only 3% or 5%, but Mass DEP, tougher than EPA and stuff like that. So as you start to get into these projects, it can escalate really rapidly, and you have to respond immediately. So I think we've done this in the past where there's some type of a check or question on, what it can be, what was it, the Bartley rule we have?
Well, no, it's called a contingency. It should be built in, but, I mean, we don't, if I may, Madam Chair, what I'm suggesting is, you know what you know, so fund for that. If more needs to be, you file another request, right? I mean, if another 300 grand is needed because of oil remediation, we don't know if there's 2 cents that's needed for oil remediation. You don't even know if you even have a problem. So my point is, bring it in when you have facts and we fund this, and I would need to see a proposal on the back garage. I mean, that's been like that since 1980 when it was installed. You know, I remember certain former commissioner, chairman of the DPW said, and I'll even put my blue jeans on and move us in there. And there's some famous quotes from that, and that didn't last long as the HPD headquarters. That's been a disaster for 30 years. Nevertheless, there's been a general understanding that, and it's been given to us from structural engineers in the past, that the building is perfectly fine in terms of its structure.
So
hold on, let me continue. Yeah. That the building itself has been structurally sound. It leaks like a sieve and is a mold farm under there, no question. But that we have to maintain the top surface, and that does need to be done. And certainly, if that needs money, then bring us in an estimate that needs to be done to make that safe. We don't have that in front of us.
Part of what we're looking for is actually just that. It's a proposal to have the first round of engineering done. I think, you know, Sean again could speak to it, but something that I had the same belief as you, and I've been parking on that deck for a long time. I will tell you this, what I just heard in this past few days gives me a great amount of concern, and I'm worried that a structural engineer is going to get out there. We're going to, procure $75,000, $100,000 for an engineering study because that's what it's going to be, and we're going to be told no one can park on it. I was told recently there might be sections of that deck right now that needs to be cordoned off, and that's why we need to get this engineer out there to do that work. So, and I just want you to know that everything that you're raising, and if, I don't want to speak for the mayor, obviously, because he's not here, but many of the questions that you're raising are questions that we had internally between myself, the mayor, the auditor. Why not just go with the bare minimum? Why not just take $1 million or 1.5 and let's just see, as we're trying to do these other things. And it was all of these other X factors that really, the timing of it, we've got the state, kind of at our door right now. He was just caught off guard. I happened to be with him when he called the commissioner to find out how did the press find out about this before the city found about this, only to hear that supposedly some report was given to the city many, many years ago. I was here then. I had no idea about that. So I don't know whose desk that sat in. I don't know where that went. What I can tell you is that right now we've got amazing leadership at the DPW between Carl and Sean, and
your board, the board of directors,
and the board of absolutely,
commissioners,
absolutely, Mary Monahan and the
Libby.
rest. So and at the same time, the only thing to Councilor Sullivan's point, and it's actually something bond counsel said they didn't feel we needed to still include in this particular bond language, is the Bartley Amendment. And the reason they felt that was because it was already so narrowly focused on parking infrastructure improvements. They said, oh, we don't know if you need to include that, further ordered that any additional, because it could only be used for parking. But we really, to your point and to your point, and if Councilor Bartley was here, since he was the one that created it, that we want to have that level of transparency. And those grants that we're talking about going after would obviously have to come in front of the council as well. So I think there will be multiple opportunities. This is just, we're in April. The reality is that this work would start in earnest. It could be during the summer break. Sure, we could pull an emergency meeting together and have to do that. But there's also a 30-day cool-off period after authorization before we can start spending. We got to get the green light letter from the clerk. There's a number of things that kind of go into play before we can just start making it happen. Hopefully that, I know it doesn't address all your concerns, but at least can give you a little insight into how we came up with that number.
okay if I, do you mind if I, okay. One thing I was trying to remember from way back, when you test the soil for oil, is it like E20 or something? I seem to recall that's what it was called. I can't remember if that's the thing. I'm assuming you have plans to test the soil under that, and like Councilor Sullivan said, we have no idea how much that spreads. And if my recollection is, if I recall correctly from many years ago on the council, this, just the test alone could mess up this whole thing. If that test is negative, if that's the right word, we're like really in big trouble. So again, I get the 5 million, but my gut's saying, can you do the test first? Is that possible? How long does that take? I know you're on a schedule because of the state going after you in the elevator, and I guess there's security there now, which is useful. The other question I have is, and again, it needs to be done. I know that, tough decision for all of those decks and stuff. What do we do with the parkers? The parkers? The people that park there. Where do they go? And how do they, do they get a discount on their fee, that they pay every month? But my big concern, and it's always been that way from many, many years ago, is the soil contamination could wreck this whole thing. So just something that you guys, I think, really need to look at. And the other thing is, and I have no idea how much it costs or anything like that, but if we were to approve this tonight, or even go without a recommendation, would you be willing to come before the city council on the 7th in case people have questions, or Zoom in, But my main concern is that oil, before we address anything else. Councilor Sullivan?
Yes, I can help you with that. So, once again, you've got a contaminated area. You start to remediate it, but there's no way of knowing how far it's spread until you actually start to excavate it, until you actually start to remove it. You'll have an engineer there, you'll have somebody from DEP, and you will keep on removing the soil until they get clean samples in a 360-degree direction around the contaminated spot. So that's the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
And that could be for the Peru, City Hall, the Suffolk Street, all of them.
Could be for this whole city.
Yeah, but we're not.
Now, honestly, I would just think it's for Pool because that's the only one that has an elevator in it, and that's where the hydraulic leak is from the elevator. So that's the main concern, right there. I mean, you could always find contaminants from digging from, previous construction that was never tested before. Like you said, it was like what 25, 30 years ago that the Pool parking garage was
Yeah, it's
built.
about 33, I guess.
So, yeah, so 33, so, like Counselor Sullivan said, is that once you start digging, you don't know the extent, but, we're just concerned right now with the elevator as far as the pool garage is to get that moving forward, but there's, unfortunately, what we've inherited at DPW regarding the parking garage, and I think this, city council knows as far as our infrastructure goes, is that it hasn't been well maintained for a number of years. And we're just trying to, one, fix the problems and make sure it doesn't happen again.
So,
Yeah.
just
Go ahead,
to
Counselor, and then
try and finish on this so everybody gets it. Sean, the holding tank for that elevator, what's it, probably 55 gallons, 100 gallons?
Yeah, it's probably 100 gallons.
Okay.
And so the piston failed. So once the seals fail on the piston, it just leaks into the pit.
Well, yeah, but the trouble is, whoever's maintaining it for all of those years, their solution was not to fix the broken seals, the leaky seals. It was to continue to add oil and bring it back up, bring it back up, bring it back up. So where you've got a 100-gallon tank, there could be 1,000 gallons of contamination in the soil. Maybe this helps explain to everybody how far this could spread.
When theirs failed? How much oil in the ground did we have at the War Memorial?
The entire tank leaked, but it's contained to the pit itself. And we'll only know that once we start vac trucking it out, because that's part of the
So we
bids.
had zero contamination at the War Memorial.
Because it's in a concrete pit. but it does seep down. So once the vac truck starts vacuuming everything out, they are there with a with the DEP officials, and that engineer's report, like you said, Madam Chair, is an E20, and that's a report we don't want to get hit with, because that means we have to dig even further into the ground and everything, and we don't want to do
Was
that.
I right with the E20?
Yeah, it's an E20.
Yeah.
And that's
I'm
providing.
sorry.
Okay,
Go ahead.
The difference between War Memorial and the parking garage is that, like Sean said, it was a concrete pit at the War Memorial, but at the parking garage, it's a gravel pit. So that's why there's a possibility of contamination at the parking garage.
And we'll only know that once they begin the work, where they jack the elevator back up to a certain height, the vac truck can get in there, start vacuuming out, and then the engineers are on site and they test as we go. And once it's, like you said, we get a clean bill of health, then we're okay, and then we backfill and fill it with concrete. Whether that concrete or the gravel has deteriorated and it held it, we just don't know.
So,
I'm sorry. Well, just to give, she hasn't.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
okay. Counselor Ocasio.
come back to it.
I had a question. It's regarding the residents from Lyman Terrace. Is this oil, if there's any oil spill or the soil being contaminated, does it affect the water supply in Lyman Terrace area or any of the, the grounds there?
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't, because our water is contained within piping, and same as sewer goes. So hopefully it's locally contained to the elevator itself. But like I said, we'll only know once we get into it. And for it to travel that far, that would be very significant. And hopefully, like I said, it would just be contained to that single area. And then, like I said, all the other pipes are protected already. It's not like a well. We don't have any wells or anything there. Everything is within a sewer pipe or within a copper pipe or brass pipe, like the water department spoke on earlier. Everything is within the infrastructure.
And does bond counsel know about, I'm assuming, the elevator, the oil, the testing, and they approved the 5 million?
They do,
Okay.
and that's why they suggested us put
Okay.
forth this language.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
If I can continue.
You, and then, yes, Dusty.
So, as far as, back to the elevator again, it's supposed to be state inspected every year. So, am I correct in assuming that for 9 years there was no inspection done on this elevator as well?
Yep, and so we're gonna get fined too. Once we take out the permit and we attempt to make the repairs, they're gonna fine us.
Yep.
They're gonna smack us with, every year we didn't have it inspected, and whatever that cost is, $1,000, $120, I don't know, whatever the
No.
cost is, we'll know that once we dive into it deeper.
No,
but
it's $5,000 per year. So that's
we're
gonna be
get slapped with that.
45,000
They're gonna hit us
at
with
least,
that.
if it hasn't gone up.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're gonna hit us with that. As far as it not getting inspected, like I said, when I came on, we knew right away, we identified that it wasn't getting inspected, that it was down. And then as far as that goes, and then gets us here to this day, there's other things within the city when I took over that were not getting inspected, certain standpipes within the system, in City Hall and stuff like that. So there were fire inspection, sprinkler inspection, and other things that were not being inspected regularly, that have all been brought on board now, that I've gotten on board. And so that digs into the R&M, where the budget was very tight, and now it's like we're adding all these things to the budget that were never there, but should have been originally. And I identified a lot of that, like, wait a minute, we don't inspect that. So as far as that goes there, that was one of those things too.
Okay, and the last piece is for Rory. So if we approved a $5 million bond request, and then all of this would be ongoing projects, could this disqualify us from some of the loans, not loans, the grants that we go after are sometimes for new projects and not for existing would that make this whole thing an existing project that wouldn't qualify for grants because you know, like to Counselor Dane's point, if we were just taking care of the immediate stuff right now while we waited for this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so the good thing is on the brownfields piece, that's when you uncover something, and then you're able to kind of work with them and hopefully get some grant money. So all the engineering and all the different pieces that go into that, so that's one. All the points that Councilor Jordan has raised as it relates to Suffolk Street and the legal battle and the surface and all of those points are exactly why we had already started the work on the MassWorks grant. Because before this issue with the elevator came up, when there were some other kind of just deferred maintenance type issues, and the mayor said, let's put a bond together. I want to work with this. And we had an internal conversation. I was very clear. I said, we can do that. I said, but if we're just talking about maintenance, why don't we go after some of these grants that I'm aware of that are specifically for parking infrastructure? So we got right on the phone with Aaron and his staff, and we started the ball rolling. Now, those awards wouldn't be coming for many months, right? If at all. I mean, because you don't know. We're hoping to get some of that. And I said, if we go with, just talking about some of this deferred maintenance stuff, there's a long history here. And I said, Aaron, you must remember some of this. You voted on some of these things when you were a counselor as it relates to the parking garages. I mean, at least two of you were here on the council then.
I was a DPW commissioner not that long ago.
I know
and
that, yeah.
Never,
yeah.
ever heard about
elevators
or the garages, nothing.
So
nothing.
So that's what leads us here today. So no, not for these types of things. It's a little bit different than, we could use like the school. You guys authorized $86 million for a bond for the new school. Obviously, there was multiple meetings, many presentations. We already had the grant award in place. You knew that was never going to be expended, right? So while there's some similarities here, there's some big differences too. But one of those the only reason I'll raise that is to answer your question, is that in those types of circumstances, if we had already been repairing doors and windows, and then an accelerated repair program from the state came up, and we said, let's go after that grant money after you guys had already bonded for it, after we had already started that work, yes, we'd be too late to use that to offset the proceeds here. What we'd be looking at with this type of a project, the types of monies that we're going after, wouldn't have that level of concern. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
And this may not be a smart question, but is there an interest rate that goes along with this $5 million?
No.
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 Okay.
And just so we're crystal clear for the public, anyone else listening, the authorization, an authorization doesn't equal spending. You guys this past fall, so maybe not everybody on the council, but some of the councilors approved a $10 million EPA, Clean Water Trust grant for sewer improvements. We haven't spent one penny of that yet. The authorization got us in the queue to allow for that. That authorization might sit out there for 5 or 6 years before we ever actually spend anything on it and ever do anything with it. It's the same thing here. Just all the reasons that have been mentioned that cause us to come in with a larger number than what the estimates show right now is why we came in with that larger number, because we just don't know what we're going to find once they get into the soil.
Okay. Yes.
Again, I'm old-fashioned. Everybody knows that. And when old-fashioned means I've been doing this for a while, and I'm very opposed to rubber stamp city council. And this is, again, talks about how we function as a government. You identify $1 million worth of work and ask for a $5 million authorization. That is a rubber stamp city council. Okay, that's why I'll never vote for that. If you asked for maybe 2 million because you said, Kevin, we got $1 million of definite work and we need some form of contingency because we might find this and we might find that, but we maybe don't have to spend it. To have an extra $1 million, that's 100% contingency, okay? Then that I could perhaps justify that, okay? But to say 5 million on a 1 million known identified problem, that's crazy. This is not you. You should ask for 10 million, quite frankly. Why stop at 5, right, is my point. This council has a job to do, and that is to make sure every nickel that this city spends is spent correctly with identified cost. And that means if you find something, it isn't just here's an open checkbook. Come on back down the hall and get an approval. Especially when you're into millions of dollars. We're not talking $50 here. This is into the millions. And if this city council wants to function where we just give out $5 million authorizations and spend it however you want, guys, what the hell kind of city council are we on? This is what I'm talking about. This city council is dysfunctional. And to even... Hold on.
Well, you're pontificating, and we
that's
need
my
to get this
opinion.
done. We need to get this done tonight, and we have other things on the agenda.
I'm pontificating because I'm making a point. And the point is, this is inappropriate to be adopted in its current form because you only have 1 million in identified cost. You're talking about doing repairs at the back garage. Who even knows what those are? There's nothing even in here. It doesn't even mention anything about the back garage. And yet I'm supposed to tell taxpayers, here's a $5 million blank check. Those costs need to be identified. If you need $100,000 to do a structural engineer to come in, then put that in your proposal. That could be part of a $2 million thing. I mean, we're perfectly reasonable here when it comes to these type of capital improvements. But to just say 5 million, come on, guys. That's not okay. So anyways, I'm in support of making all these repairs, having everything assessed, fix the elevator, but we need to have dollars attached to bonds, attached to projects. Not here's just a ballpark number and we're off by 4 million.
No, and I think that's a point well taken. And so what I can say is, just in the interest of time, because there is a timing issue, and the million just probably won't be enough. If the council and the committee saw fit, because I heard a couple other reservations too, what could happen at your next agenda, your next full council meeting, is, and this has happened plenty of times, because as we all know, the council can't make changes to this type of language, only the mayor through the auditor can. We could come back in with an authorization request at a lesser amount. I think it would be closer to, 3. If that's palatable, with the understanding that we're most likely going to have to, as things happen, we may have to come back. But the timing, just the timing is part of the concern, right? Because you don't know, we know what we know now, but we also don't know what we don't know. So, there's no way that, especially when we start talking about the back parking deck, that 5 million, we're probably talking about a much larger authorization that we'd have to come back for. So if that's something that the, committee, would like to see, that's easy enough. The language has already been drafted. We're just changing a dollar amount within it, and we could have that put forth at the next full council meeting with the ask that final action be taken that night.
May
And
7th.
I believe it's 9
Counselor
votes either
Givner,
way,
next.
so,
Okay, Councilor Givner?
That actually answered my question.
Okay. Do we want to do a motion? Do we want to keep talking about it? We need to do something.
So, before I make the proposal, if I could get a nod of the head from Councilor Jordan, And Mr. Casey, I've heard a $2 million come from you, and I've heard a $3 million come from you if I was to put out a proposal for 2.5, that we would theoretically support that at the full council meeting.
Also, yes,
So-
I would support that, and also put in the $100,000 for if you need a structural engineer for the back deck.
Yes.
Then put that in the proposal.
And I'll apologize again. It is. It's just a standalone dollar amount that Sean received a quote from Ty and Bond. It didn't get printed out. It won't be included that granularly in the bond language, because,
But you're gonna use that money to do it.
correct.
Okay.
And so we can send a further communication that has that information. So that's certainly not a problem. I think 2.5 million, should be able to get us off the ground.
And if you
Sean
need
and
more,
Carl,
come
I think.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that
At
gives,
least
Yeah,
that
get
gives
the ball
everybody
rolling.
time. So,
And we have about 3 weeks
Yeah.
before the 7th. So,
Cost whatever it costs, right?
yeah,
We're gonna
what,
give you the money if it
right.
needed.
So
the,
I just wanted to,
go ahead. Chair.
thank you. I'm going to forget what I want to say. So if what I'm hearing is that, and again, I don't know for sure, if everybody's in agreement with maybe a 2.5, and are we going to get fined within that 3 weeks because we can't work on the elevator? That's one question. And then the other one is, procedurally wise, would we deny this 5 million and then ask you to come back with 2.5 that we think we could sell to the full council? That's what I'm looking at.
They'd both be adopted, Madam Chair, on the same night, which is May 7th. So we send this back with.
Both meaning
Well, whatever this committee does tonight
Yeah.
needs final action on May 7th.
Okay.
So what I'm suggesting is if we deny the 5 and Rory comes in with a 2.5 on the 7th, we pass the 2.5.
Okay. Carl has his hand raised.
Yeah, we won't get fined for the elevator as far as, getting the work done. Like I says, I'm looking for, I believe it's called a variance to get 90 to 120 days. So I will be applying for that tomorrow. I don't believe they will deny us. They probably understand our situation and what we're going through. But also I would like to say is that if we need to come in front of the finance committee periodically to update you on what we find as we find it, I'll be willing more to do so.
Yeah.
Just that way you are assured that we're spending the funds appropriately and not asking for money just to ask for
Right.
money.
Beautiful.
Okay.
That would also give us a heads up on if there is more stuff coming.
Right.
We should
right.
know about it, that's,
Right.
especially this kind of money.
Yeah, okay. That works for me. Do I hear a motion on something?
Okay, motion that this one be denied with the expectation we're gonna get a new one on the 7th.
Is it denied or
There a
returned to
second?
the
Second.
auditor?
Either or.
I think if you return to the auditor, it's still there.
I say we just deny.
Deny it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor of denying the 5 million? And then, as a caveat, you will be before us on the 7th with the 2.5, and
We'll pass
we'll
that.
certainly do everything in our power to pass that. So, thank you very much, very much. Carl, appreciate it. We do have a couple more things for DPW, so we'll go on to item number 12, which is ordered that hereby appropriated by transfer in the year 2024, $7,145.76 as follows. Capital stabilization and to R&M City Hall. So I make a motion that we take it off the table for discussion.
So moved.
Okay. You guys are unbelievable. Go ahead.
Counselor?
There's
Yeah.
two meetings here. Carl, did you have a question?
No, I don't have a question. This is regarding the transfer, and Sean could also speak on this. This is basically for the water main break inside of City Hall.
Right.
That we're transferring money from capital stabilization to do emergency work to repair the water main break at City Hall.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay.
That was in the news there, or a little bit, right? That was, what, a couple months ago?
Somebody got a question or comment?
Motion be approved.
Motion be approved. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Oh, let's see what this one is. This is item number 13, that hereby appropriated by transfer in the fiscal year 2024, $20,000 as follows. Property maintenance and demo worker, $5,000, refuge laborer, $10,000, parks, heavy.
Water equipment operator.
Thank you, to R&M vehicles. Move we take it off the table for discussion?
So moved.
Okay, Carl?
Yeah, this is basically either vacant positions or positions that were not funded, but people were hired later on in the fiscal year that we have available balances for to transfer into R&M vehicles, which is for our vehicle maintenance that we're running low on funds. And obviously, as council knows, is that our fleet is very old, so it takes a lot more money every year to maintain these vehicles.
Okay. Yes, Michael?
Thanks. Carl, I take it we still haven't hired a maintenance and demo worker?
No, what happened there with the maintenance and demo worker, he was on workers' comp, so that salary line item wasn't paid to him. It was paid out of the workers' comp. So we have that flexibility in that account to pay for, to use some of that money from that account to transfer over to R&M vehicles.
But we actually had hired someone and filled that position?
We promoted someone from within.
Okay. Thank you. That was my only question.
Any others?
Motion be approved.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. So we're not doing too bad. We're getting there. Okay, this one is item 14. Notification, let's see, Chapter 44, Section 53A. The City Council hereby accepts the provisions of Mass DEP sewage notification assistance grant, $50,000, no match. Will we take it off the table for discussion?
Yes, this is a no-match grant that we got from DEP that our grant writer that we hired over, say back in September, worked on. It's for to streamline our CSO email notifications by upgrading the notification system to allow automated messages to be sent to the public.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Don't we already have a system already, like, that does the phone calls and everything? Like, what new are we getting out of this 50 grand? Sounds great, but I'm just wondering what we're...
It's an upgrade to the system. So we were awarded funds through the Sewer Notification Assistance Grant to develop an electronic notification system to alert the public of the presence of sewage at local CSO outfalls on the Connecticut River. Flow assessment provided the city of Holyoke with a system that generates an email message for each CSO, provided for each CSO activation, which is forwarded to any member of the public that signs up to receive the activation.
Oh, I see.
So the alert directs the public to the City of Holyoke website, where they will be able to view the map of the CSOs and see the current condition of the CSO, as well as the start time, stop time, and duration and volume. So it's basically an upgrade of the system.
I see.
Counselor Bissonnette, you have your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, everybody. Just as Carl said, it is an upgrade. 2 years ago, almost 3 now, the legislature required municipalities to implement a series of warnings to the public whenever there was a CSO overflow into tributaries like the Connecticut. Holyoke started its upgrade. It cost some money to tie into the systems. This is basically a full reimbursement of the amounts that had been spent to upgrade the system. It's back online. Carl was good enough to get it up on the front page. And I think the first couple of times it might have said that it was from the water department, and that got a few phone calls about water quality. But so far, so good. It's really been working very well and provided the public with information. So we qualified for the reimbursement. And here it is.
Oh, beautiful.
Great.
Motion to be approved?
You're all set? All those in favor? Aye, so moved. Okay. I think that may do it for the DPW, and then I've just got a couple other things that people don't need to be here for. Okay?
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Nice
Carl,
job.
thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item 15. Ordered that there be any, I can't talk anymore, is hereby appropriated by transfer in fiscal year 2024, $25,000 as follows. Sanitarian 2, $11,000, Sanitarian 3, $6,000, Sanitary 1, $5,000, floating clerk 3,000, for a total of $25,000 for special counsel. And then I have this letter from Timothy Rivers, Board of Health Director. I don't know if you got this or if I was the only one that got it, because it was this afternoon. So after a multi-department meeting about a case that has been open for years, it was acknowledged that a private investigator would be deemed to be the best solution to move this case into compliance. To fund this service, the Board of Health has had a significant number of vacancies that left a surplus in multiple personnel line items in our budget. The additional funds in excess of the investigative services were requested to bolster and fast-track the solicitor's efforts in other departments that need legal resources. Counselor Bissonnette, I'm not sure if you're aware of this. Again, I just got it this afternoon.
I hadn't seen the,
Did you get it?
I'm sorry.
Read it? You got it.
I hadn't seen the letter, but consistent with that letter, the funding would be used to provide for our outside services account. I also have information about the additional transfer, but I think Attorney Degnan has joined us to discuss the $5,000 amount.
Yes, yes. Good evening, councilors. As Councilor Devine read from Tim's letter, the request, the investigation services that we're doing, it's going to lead to litigation. What we don't know is whether or not it might be, depending on what we find, there might be cause to issue a criminal complaint. But the property has been a problem for years, and the health department is getting involved. And so it's just investigation. We need to know about this property before we can determine how to proceed and enforce the sanitation laws. And if there are criminal acts being done there, we need to know that. So that's what that money is for.
Okay. Questions?
I'm assuming there's some insider information here that the committee's not privy to, or at least this counselor's not privy to, relative to there's some legal issue going on at a certain property that's being regulated by the Board of Health. Is this a residential or commercial property? And we're looking to, this is related to something that the Board of Health is doing to the extent you can you, Kathy, using your discretion, what's going on here, basically? Because I'm trying to understand, this looks like a request by the Board of Health moving some surpluses, for whatever reason they have surpluses in these other areas. I'll skip over that. But that I see there's an engagement letter from a law firm, Rath, Young, and Pignatelli, out of New Hampshire, and perhaps Boston, to be retained to provide some legal services. It doesn't mention anything about what they're actually doing. So could you give us a thumbnail of what's going on?
Counselor, if I may.
Sure.
Two separate issues. And I think they're together only because the funds are coming from one department, from the health department. One has to do with that $5,000 to hire an investigator to assist with an investigation into a It's actually a code enforcement housing matter that may lead into, has led into a potential criminal investigation. And essentially, we want to make sure all of the ducks are in a row for the city before we move forward on a different front to deal with this particular landlord. Separate from that, as you saw from the engagement letter, the law department seeks to retain outside counsel for a matter involving the combined sewer overflows. As many of you know, we were able to fortunately resolve by a consent decree the lawsuit initiated against the city by the Department of Justice on behalf of the Environmental Protection Agency. That has led to a consent decree that basically has limited the exposure of the city to $50,000 in fines and a total estimated total now of less than $30 million in construction costs, as opposed to the preliminary consent decree that was on the order of $130 million. So that was a good day. But following up on that agreement comes the actual discharge permits renewed every 5 years. Massachusetts is one of 4 states that has their own permit system in addition on top of the EPA discharge system. So while we have extensions on both of those now, there are 3 areas of appeal that the city has filed. We were able, as we did with the CSO matter, we were able to handle that in-house. All the matters with federal court we handled in-house, and as well as filing these appeals. But as we get to the point where we're going to go into federally approved mediation on these now, we want to bring in expert counsel who's had experience in these matters. The initial retainer is going to be limited to only the next short period while we begin to engage in this mediation. It's the intent of the law department, without giving away too many secrets, that we feel confident that we can resolve this at the mediation level and not be required to go to Washington for the full EPA hearing. Of course, that remains to be seen, but we feel we have a fairly good case, and now we will have good counsel to guide us. So with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you. That's a very thorough explanation. Okay, so now I'm getting it. We have a CSO issue. They're representing us on those appeals. That's what the 20 grand for. The 5,000 is related to this problem landlord issue. Got it.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
All right. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Law Department. I appreciate that. I'm comfortable with that. Thank you.
Oh, you know why? Because he said there were several meetings, so that's probably one of them.
Okay. I'll make a motion that it be approved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, just have 2 more to go. But Counselor Sullivan just raised an issue that, and I'll refer back to the Board of Health letter where it says, after a multi-department meeting, so that's why the DPW is included and other people. Okay?
Yeah, I was just curious.
Sure.
I thought this was just from Board of Health and.
Yeah, no, there's.
It actually is CSO is the 20 grand.
Right. I can't believe we're still talking about CSO after all these years. Okay, so the only other 2 left, item 6 and item 7. And item 6 is that we received a donation from Plymouth Paper of 12 pallets of assorted paper goods estimated value of $23,882, and we have to establish a fund or other method appropriate for the accounting of the receipts and expenditures of all the resources associated with the administration of said donation. So do I hear a motion that we do that?
Yeah, motion to approve with a nice big thank you card
Yeah.
out to, I saw there was a little blurb out there about this, and that was really nice of this company.
Yes,
and
definitely.
This individual to think of us to do this. This was very nice, very thoughtful.
And also, Jeffrey, if when time allows, if you could write a letter of thanks. Would that be the proper person?
That would be very nice.
Okay, so a motion that this is approved. All those in favor? Aye. And then the other one is, the last one is from, ordered, that $1,950 be authorized from Computer Department Software License Usage Fees appropriation in fiscal year 2024 for services rendered in fiscal year 2023 that were, which were unencumbered. Do you have the letter?
What number is
This is item 7.
7?
Sorry to keep going back and forth to different ones, but,
I thought this was the one for Rory and his, I thought this was for his,
no, Jamie Morrow.
oh, Jamie?
Yeah, you should have a copy of that letter. If not, I'm happy to read it.
Oh, okay, I thought Rory's was the, oh, no, Rory's was item 10, okay.
Yeah, this is from Jamie Morrow, Chief Procurement Officer. Make a motion, we take it up for discussion?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, okay. Finance Committee, I hope this correspondence finds you well. I'm clarifying the reason behind asking permission to pay invoice 1527 out of fiscal 2023. This is for the Office of Community Development in the City of Holyoke. There were monies included to upgrade the Munis implementation. Holyoke needed to purchase a new wildcard SSL certificate as part of the upgrade. Then she describes what the wildcard SSL/TSL is, and she's requesting that the Honorable Finance Committee vote to allow us to pay invoice 15271 out of fiscal year 23 Computer Systems Administration. This will allow our auditor to do a journal entry replenishing P.O. Box 2023-2096, which will allow me to pay the final outstanding invoice for this project. Make a motion that we take it up for discussion?
So moved.
Pen just broke. Any questions or comments?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, so moved. Do I hear the magic words?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Thank you very much. Very, very much. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Eddie.
And my apologies to you.
Not at all, not at all, no.